Dead Space 3 is the third in the horror game series of third-person shooters made by Visceral Games and published by Electronic Arts, where you play as zombie-eviscerating CEC engineer Isaac Clarke, who gets caught up in zombie apocalypse scenarios that pop up more frequently than EA attempts to grab your cash. Once again, he must put a stop to the human zombifying when he just wants to spend time with a girl. In this installment, he must fight the bizarrely populated religious sect that worships zombies, because who doesn't want to be a zombie? The Dead Space universe has always been thin when it comes to explanations. The fear of the unknown has accented the game's horror elements nicely. Now that time has been spent exploring the cheap scares, it is time for our mentally superpowered Isaac to shine. The poor engineer started out barely scraping by, one death cannon at a time, as he was escaping a comical horror he could not begin to comprehend. Isaac started out mute and has reached a new height of character as his troubled soul is dragged into a mess he wants no part of. The entire government has fallen to a mysteriously powerful religious sect, and only Isaac Clarke can save humanity from the zombies. Isaac, being the upstanding action hero he is only roped into it when his ex-girlfriend is dangled in front of him. After a narrow escape from the resident religious nuts, he shocks away to the 200-year-old ship graveyard, where he is told his ex is eagerly awaiting sex from another man. Surprisingly, the 200-year-old ships are full of zombies, and he must rescue his old flame, who won't talk to him unless he ends the human-zombie superfication once and for all. Soon he finds himself crashing down to the big block of ice that he believes to be the marker source planet, whatever that is. Here he must battle his way through starved nudists and the competence of his companions to stop religion from winning. After a fun trip to the insides of a large necromorph and one of the more satisfying endings to a love story he could ask for, Isaac finds himself in a mess of a dig site. Thanks to the dissected parts of an alien babe, he learns of the purpose of the psionic soup makers. They signal the amorphous blobs in space to come and eat. I'm going to take a moment here to say that unestablished aliens as your Deus Ex Machina is the storylines, but because I said so is to an argument with your mother. With nothing left to lose, Isaac rampages his way through the alien city with the aid of a 200-year-old scientist who used even older alien technology to pierce the moon. Against all odds and the machinations of the impressively capable Looney Bunch, he zaps the moon in a very strange fight with a boss the size of a planet. The previous Dead Space games had a solid combat system where your decisions as a player can really affect the outcome of combat. In Dead Space 3, your decisions when enemies are not on the screen become much less important when they are not. In many situations, the two weapons you are limited to can decide how well you overcome an encounter. Uniform ammunition and modular weapon pieces allow you more control of your playstyle, but some of the weapons you can enjoy can be as effective as a ship full of well-armed, well-trained soldiers against a single necromorph. This extends beyond the variety and capability of the enemies. Some combinations end up being far too superior in every situation to justify the use of more exciting ones. This problem can be lessened by the availability of weapon parts in the staggeringly sluggish crafting system. The game unfortunately holds the carrot on a long stick with a limited amount of crafting material till you are far into the game and after you have long since lost hope of having a cool weapon. Even then, it takes abusive use of the game's exploration mechanic to fully utilize. The obnoxious amount of backtracking for minimal rewards, as well as is required to progress through the game's already boring scenery, wears out all the shiny graphics you've been stuck with for the past few hours. The rewards for exploring are surprisingly lackluster, though on occasion you can find a rare and powerful weapon part, which nearly forces you to look in every single boring corner. You will likely find yourself with an abundance of health kits to the point where your life becomes less valuable than a shiny but useless new attachment for your weapon. The previously satisfying node system has gone for a resource system based on sending out scrapbots to play the game for you while you have a nap. The balance between offense and defense is also gone, with collectible upgrade circuits being the major means of upgrading your weapon, while the brain-dead scrap probe mining is the quickest way to upgrade your suit. Dead Space 3 really tries to make the gear fight for you while you cry over how sorry the story is. The actual encounters are where the core of the gameplay becomes truly satisfying. You could find yourself mowing through a horde of Ethiopians to suddenly be thrown a pack of vomiting old women. This is an unfortunate lie, as every enemy is fast and eager to run right up to your face. The variety of enemies has increased as is necessary for another installment of an original IP, though the newer enemies have abandoned the dismemberment aspect that has made the series iconic. Previously, you were able to defeat the variety of enemies with smart positioning. This time around, that was thwarted by innumerable enemies per area, with every enemy barreling toward you as fast as YouTube likes pornography. Enemies can appear right on top of you without you knowing what's coming or being able to do anything about it. The limp noodles the enemies attack you with are not that threatening, and the ocean of healing juice you will be swimming in makes the encounters much less deadly, but it would be nice to be able to not get noodled at all. Combat ends up less of an exciting panic and more of a required chore your parents are still nagging you about. While there are a few moments where the tickle monsters may drop your health bar to 0, it is more likely that you will meet your demise at one of the game's many hazards. There are far too many situations where you have to rely on your twitchy reflexes alone to get past an intentionally misleading instant death trap that neither your weapons nor armor can help you with. These moments shatter the immersion even more than the pointless side quests for excessive loot. The side quests do well in making you sick of seeing the exact same rooms and layouts, on top of throwing new enemies at you before you've had their debut spotlight time. There are many glorious opportunities to involve the player in the universe and story, all of of them betrayed by gamey mechanics and game looping that makes you wonder if the devs actually played the game before releasing it. Despite many attempts from the developers, you will likely get full value for your cash. The mechanic defeating co-op mode, pointless boring side quests, constant backtracking, unskippable infuriating cutscenes lead to an experience you can get 8 to 12 hours out of. Assorted new game plus modes add replayability for those of us inclined to torture ourselves and call it enjoyment. It is definitely more enjoyable with a friend, and if it is your first game of the series, but veteran space engineers will find many elements downgrades to games made years ago. This has been Crimson, and my hat is off to you.